tweak myself. Look at that. I started a live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Source Material. Quick little episode here. I think this is episode 131, I believe. I hope I got that right. And this evening, we are bringing to you, I got a little crazy. I think it was Friday. I was just like, you know what? I know me and Ronnie, when we don't have a show planned, I can usually count on Ronnie Adams to help me out if we do like a single issue. Speaking of Ronnie Adams, how you doing this evening?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. This fine Sunday evening. Thanks again for joining me. As per usual, I give you no notice, and you're like, heck yeah.
Well, you act like I have a life. I say that. And people are like, oh, he's just kidding. No. I'm sitting here, my dog's asleep on the couch.
Just waiting to do a podcast.
Yeah. Waiting for some kind of human contact.
Somebody talk to me, please.
Let's talk.
Oh. Well, Friday. So Friday, I think it was Friday. I was like, look, we've got to come up with an episode. What better way to do it than to reach out to our Source Material faithful who follow the Facebook page. And I just put a little blurb out there that said, hey, first person to comment their favorite single issue of all time. Now, I kind of preface. That's probably not
prefaced.
I don't know if I prefaced it. I kind of put a little caveat in there with like, hey, it'd be preferably if it was standalone, because if you're giving me, issue 4 in a 5-issue story arc, I'd let it slide so long as it's really good, but I'd love for it to be a standalone issue.
Right.
And so I said first person to comment, and none other than Dean Compton, the man who's been on here a couple times. He's discussed previously with myself. He's discussed Marvel versus DC, and we've also had him on here for we were talking like some of the greatest characters that came out of the 1990s, if I remember right. That was one of our first episodes that we had the chance to do together, and he's over there. He's part of the Unspoken Decade on Facebook and the webpage there. If you get a chance, go check that out. But anyway, Dean says, hey, how about issue 17 of Spider-Man? So immediately I was like, is he talking about Amazing Spider-Man, or is he talking about adjectiveless Spider-Man? I thought he was going, I honestly thought he was going way back in the Wayback Machine and grabbing like Amazing Spider-Man 17. And I wouldn't be able to tell you hide nor hair of what happened in that issue, but I thought, well, that seems like a classic. But no, I know Mr. 1990s Dean Compton. He's not going. He went with the adjectiveless Spider-Man. That's right. We're talking Spider-Man, the series that came out in 1990. This issue actually came out in December. If you open up the first page, it's December of 1991. And so this is right after, just to give everybody kind of an idea of where this is at and in the history of Spider-Man and the creative teams and stuff. When Spider-Man first launched, there was the adjective list, the 1990 Spider-Man. There was a hot artist on the scene at the time, and he was Todd McFarlane. And people absolutely adored his art. He was known for his run on Amazing Spider-Man, some great renditions of Venom. That's what I kind of know him for. And other story arcs that he did on Amazing. So they said, well, we got to give Todd his own title. So they gave him Spider-Man. And so that started out Spider-Man #1. And if you remember, I mean, that sold a ton of copies. Ton of copies.
Ridiculous.
It was. And then time went by, and this is a time in comic book history that I've lauded about on this show many a time, and that was the creation of Image Comics, where a lot of talented artists and creators came together to create their own comic book company to potentially go up against the big two, Marvel and DC. Now, this is December of 1991. This is very early prior to, because I believe it's next year, that following year in 92, Yeah, I know it is, because right now we're in the midst of celebrating the 25th year anniversary of Image Comics. So 92 is when Image gets formed. This issue right here is the first issue that happens after Todd McFarlane leaves Marvel Comics. He says, I'm done. You guys are jerking my chain. I just want to let you know. I believe he goes, if I remember right, and I'm going to have to look this up. I need to refresh my memory, but I think he like retires, and people are like, what? You're retiring? And so he just is off the book. He put in 16 issues, and here we are at issue 17. So Dean Compton picked this issue out, and I could tell you right now, Ronnie, when I saw this cover, I don't think I've ever seen this comic book. I don't think I've ever seen the cover of it. I do not remember ever seeing Spider-Man go up against Thanos in his own book. Now,
right? Yeah.
How about you, Ronnie? I mean, is this something that you'd read before? Or?
No. This is completely new to me. I was really shocked by it when I saw the cover. But as par for the course with these books, though, I figured there wouldn't be much Thanos versus Spidey action.
Would you say that Spider-Man might be a little outmatched going up against Thanos here? This is easily after the Infinity Gauntlet saga, I think, right? It is, because I think Infinity Gauntlet, I mean, we're looking at the cover here, and I'm going to do my best to describe to our listeners what the cover looks like. I mean, at the top, we have, at the hands of Thanos, the death of Spider-Man. You will believe a man can die. And here we have, go ahead.
I didn't have much problem believing that before.
You will believe. I see. It sounds like a quote, and I almost looked it up, but I decided not to. It sounds like something like either a circus goer or a magician would say. You will believe a man can die. But anyway, so Ronnie, do you remember what the cover looked like here? I've got it in front of our list, or anybody who's watching. But what do you think of this cover?
It's very dramatic. It's very shocking. And it just gives you the history of, who Thanos really is.
Mm-hmm. He's got his, what I assume is the Infinity Gauntlet. That's the gauntlet, has all the gems on it. And that
is definitely the gauntlet. How far after in the Infinity?
Let's look it up. I ain't scared to do it. Let's do it.
Didn't the Infinity War, or whatever you want to call it, the Infinity Gauntlet series, wasn't it like,
I want to say, yeah, I want to say Infinity War was 90 to 91, maybe 92. Let's look up Infinity Gauntlet first. I remember watching, I watched the issues.
Did you watch it?
I did. It was amazing. I don't know how to spell gauntlet, apparently. So here we go.
I don't know how to spell Infinity.
Oh, listen to this. Infinity Gauntlet, publication date July to December of 1991. So this is right after or as it ends. So
that's what I thought.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know if this was going to tie in. It doesn't have the little corner thing at the top, tying in with Infinity Gauntlet so-and-so.
Right. That's what I knew it was. That's what I figured it was after.
Yeah. And, of course, the story we get within, we'll talk a little bit about that because it kind of ties in with Thanos and his love for death, which we've talked about on here.
Lord, that man is
did we did the Infinity Gauntlet on here, didn't we?
Yeah.
Is that something we did?
It was no. I'm thinking of Secret Wars.
I know we did Secret Wars.
That was Christmas. And I drove all the way to West Virginia to see my family, and then it was like, yeah, I'll do a 9-hour podcast with you, Jesse. I'm not smart.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. Okay, so
good times.
Yes, it is. Well, okay, so Thanos has got Spider-Man in his hand. Thanos obviously appeared as a giant. If you didn't know who Thanos was and you pulled this issue, you would figure that he's like this gargantuan of humanoid of some type. But and in reality, ladies and gentlemen, Thanos is a big dude, but he's not as big, and he's not big enough to hold Spider-Man in the palm of his hand. So don't go and get a little misconception there. But yeah, we're looking at the creative team. Let me break this down for you real quick, because I got my notes. I did a little research here. Ann Nocenti is our writer. Okay. Now I think that I've heard her name before. She's been around for a little while. Wikipedia has her tagged as an American journalist, a writer, a teacher, an editor, and filmmaker. Okay. Best known for her work in comics as an editor for Marvel Comics. She edited New Mutants and the Uncanny X-Men. With artist collaborators, she created such Marvel characters as Typhoid Mary, Blackheart, Blackheart. I remember he's a he's a Ghost Rider villain, right?
Yeah, isn't he the son of Mephisto?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Long Shot.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Mojo.
Well, yeah, hand in hand.
Yep, and Spiral, which I believe she's from. Is she from the Mojo verse as well?
Yes, because she's got all the arms.
Okay, all right. So there you go. That's a little bit of history for Ann Nocenti there. Now we have Rick Leonardi, who's got to. Rick Leonardi has to pick up. He has to pick up and follow Todd McFarlane, which has got to be a pretty daunting task. I mean, imagine being. Yeah. You know, this is one of the hottest selling books, one of the hottest selling artists, and he leaves, and your job is to find somebody that could pick it up and go. So Rick Leonardi is the chosen man to do this. Now, he's known for, he's worked on Marvel and DC Comics, including Cloak and Dagger, Uncanny X-Men, New Mutants, Spider-Man 2099, Nightwing, Batgirl, Green Lantern versus Aliens, and Superman. So those we know. We know he's got some chops to him. Yeah. If somebody's going to hand him Green Lantern, or if somebody's going to hand him the Uncanny X-Men, he's got some chops for sure. Now, inking this, I thought this was pretty interesting. Inking this comic book is a guy by the name of Al Williamson. Now, have you ever heard of this guy?
Yeah, I want to say yes.
He's been around. It's a very good possibility you may have. He actually has been around since he's had his hand in comics since the 50s. So he actually died
2010.
Yeah, 2010.
I know who you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, so this guy he's done. I was looking at some of the early work through the Wikipedia that they were showing, and I mean he
had a long career.
Yeah, he did. I mean, they're like 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, dude, and he's going into 1991 here, and he's still inking for the big two. So he's experienced and very, I would assume very knowledgeable about comics in general, and complimenting an artist, I guess, would be the best the best way that I can say it. So Rick Leonardi, Al Williamson coming together in this issue. Now, here we go. All right. The title of this issue is called No One Gets Out Alive. And I'm going to do my best here and give a brief synopsis of kind of what happens. And there's some interesting stuff that occurs within these pages. This is not your typical hero, your hero's story arc that you would usually see in Marvel, especially in the early 90s. So, Ronnie, before I get into it, you got anything else you'd like to say?
Bro, no.
All right. Good deal. Okay. All right. So it's a regular ho-hum day for Spider-Man, right? The guy's ho-hum swinging around. He's got, he's got all these 1,000 things on his mind. Got to get this for Mary Jane. Got to get that for Aunt May. And as he's making his way home, he sees this window washing platform with a couple guys on it. All of a sudden it starts to fall. So Spidey, being the hero that he is, swings into action, rescues the window washers, and then he has to deal with the falling platform that is about to crash down into a mother and her child. Now, unfortunately, he is just a split second too slow, and it crashes into this, what I assume is like this gargantuan air conditioner. Because he mentions that it's going to crash into this thing and it's filled with Freon. And sure enough, it hits. Now, in the fleeting seconds after, right as it hits, he's able to direct a mother and child who were in the path of this thing to get in front of him. And he bears the brunt of the explosion of the blast and the splash or the torrential tsunami of Freon that apparently hits him as well. So Spidey's laying on this rooftop after this happens, and folks, Spider-Man dies. He is seen having an out-of-body experience as he's watching his lifeless body lay there. And you're like, oh, come on now. He's just dreaming, right? Yeah, no. He is dead, and he's making his way through, like, on his way to the afterlife. And as he's doing this, he starts to, as you usually see somebody do that have in the movies or in comics where they have an out-of-body near-death experience, they kind of start flashing and looking back at what their life was like. Right. Now, we don't have...
As you do.
Yeah, we don't have the whole origin story or, the death of what's her name? Why do I blank on one of the most... Gwen Stacy. We don't we don't see all that.
I tried and I failed. I just want you to know that.
We don't have this big flashback of his whole life. No, he's just kind of looking at himself and pondering, why didn't I live a life free of worry? That was one of the things that he said. I mean, it was always, I've got to do this. I've got to take care of this person. I've got to do that. And it was constantly gnawing at him, trying to get things accomplished, trying to make sure that so-and-so's taken care of, trying to be the hero. And he regrets that he didn't have a life free of that.
Right.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Thanos and Death show up. That's right.
As they do.
As they do. Thanos shows up and...
Sorry, I guess that's my new thing now. I
don't know. Just get it in there about 3 more times. And
I will. No worries about that.
No worries. So Thanos and Death show up. And they're like, look, Thanos is giving him a hard time. Death, she doesn't talk. If anybody's aware of Death in the comics, she's portrayed as one of 2 things usually. One is the skeletal Death that we would usually see, and then there is what appears to be a beautiful woman sometimes. But in both iterations, there's no talking. She is completely silent. So Thanos criticizes Peter Parker throughout this time,
which is not like a woman. Zing.
Oh,
sorry.
Ouch.
Hey.
So Thanos starts.
I'm kidding.
He's kidding, folks. Ladies, he's not serious. He's not serious. Thanos criticizes Peter Parker for being a hero, as he believes, this is the life that you lived and what you were trying to do at the time was just a futile effort. You continue to do this. And one of the things that he points out is that you even failed to save the little girl. So Peter Parker looks back. He sees that he saved the mom earlier, but he didn't realize that the little girl that she was with was killed. And I assume she's suffering from the same thing that Peter Parker is, with Freon exposure or something like that. But the little girl is actually sort of there and sort of not. But she's between worlds, as she's about ready to make the same journey that Peter Parker is. That angers Peter Parker, and he actually begins to fight Thanos. And I posted this picture earlier on the Source Material Facebook page. It's a great picture. I think it's just completely, it's one page with like 3 panels over top of it, where Peter Parker is just absolutely incensed with the fact that Thanos is sitting there telling him this. And he just looks down at the ground And Thanos is like, don't even think about it, man. And the next thing you see is this one huge page of Peter Parker decking Thanos in the face. I mean, just punching him square in the jaw. Now, things don't work, obviously, the same here in the physical world as it does in the spiritual world. But regardless, Peter Parker begins to fight Thanos up and down. They're battling back and forth. There's some banter where Thanos says, look, you're a great hero, but I want you to understand that great heroes inspire great villainy. And a hero doesn't realize that the things that they do set in motion much more wrong than what a hero can do in order to try and put it right. So we all know, I mean, Ronnie, you could probably name 10 Spider-Man villains.
Yep.
To the one Spider-Man. And most likely a lot of that may have started out separate from Spider-Man. But the question could probably...
Well...
Doc Ock, I can't even recall some of these guys' origins.
Doc Ock, Lizard, Kraven, Mysterio, all those guys, they're solely Spider-Man
villains.
But he does take on, and then you got your D-listers like the Spot and the Gibbon, and that only Spider-Man would fight.
The Gibbon.
The Gibbon. So
I got to look up the Spot. I've got to look up the Spot because I do not recall the Spot at all.
He's not great. But he, you've got the Spot, the Gibbon, guys like that. Because I mean, if it comes down to it, freaking like somebody like the Punisher's just going to kill him. I mean, he's just, he's like, all right, I've had enough of you. And then you've got guys that only Spider-Man would fight, but then he takes on guys like the freaking, Kingpin, which is shared between almost everybody in the daggone, Marvel universe. So
now of those, I mean, can you think of any off the top of your head that were created because Peter Parker's involvement, or would you say that they were created? Most of them were created on their own, but continued to be a villain and aspired to greater lengths because Spider-Man was a force against them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man, love his heart, doesn't know how to let things lie.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's always got to, which is good. I mean, it's what you want out of a hero. And so he's always the first one to jump into the fray. I mean, shoot, he punched Thanos in the face.
Yeah.
And so knowing that he would never have a chance with Thanos, or against Thanos, I should say, not with him. He's not trying to date him. But he's knowing that he'd never have a chance against Thanos.
Yeah.
He bucked up and he said, hey, I'm here, you're here, let's do this. Because you're obviously evil and I'm not.
I just brought up
this great sense of.
I was going to say, I just brought up a quick picture of the Spot, by the way, which is freaking hilarious. I've never seen this villain before.
He's not good. He's not good.
Stop punching yourself. Right.
I mean, like, he has what could potentially be a cool, superpower.
Yeah.
He doesn't use it to the best of his ability.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want a real life, look up the Gibbon.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's look up the Gibbon while we're at it. The Gibbon. Oh, well, that's actual Gibbons, folks.
Those are Gibbons. Go down to Marvel. The Gibbon Marvel.
Where am I? Is he on? Is it on here? How about I just do that real quick? Okay.
There he is.
Oh my goodness, Monkey Man.
So he's got this great sense of honor and wrong and right and or right and wrong and he has great power becomes great responsibility, and if he doesn't stop him, who's going to, kind of a deal. So it doesn't matter large or small. Daggone Peter Parker's going to jump. He's going to jump into the middle of it.
Yeah.
So.
Well. So yeah, and
he's one of the greatest heroes in Marvel history.
Agreed. I mean, if not the absolutely
history.
Yeah, the most well known, and I think there could be an argument for that. He's top 5 for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice background, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. I picked that out there a couple days ago, and I was looking for I was looking for some good stuff to set on the background. I changed it to Voltron when we were doing Voltron, and I didn't have as much of a attachment as I do to the Punisher. So I was like, I gotta find something else.
I get that. You're street little starch.
That's right, dang it. All right, let me see if I can figure out how to get back here and screen share the actual picture that we were looking at earlier. So, okay. So yeah, here, Thanos is saying, hey, you inspire great villainy, and what you set in motion is you cause a lot more harm than you do good. And you need to think about that. And he called it the hero's domino, which was an interesting term that I've never heard before.
I think that was made up.
Okay. All right. But the thing is that I believe it's a good apt description.
Oh, absolutely.
Of what happens when it comes to specifically superheroes. We see that all the time. It's just at every turn. And of course, that's part of a good story. But it seems like every turn, and there's some kind of tragedy happening that they're involved in, or that happens to them, or that they're trying to stop. So now, throughout the fight, he's continuing to fight Thanos. Death is silently looking on, and she finally stops the fight, and Thanos realizes that she's actually siding with Peter Parker here. Now, I don't know.
Does not go well.
Thanos is not like that very, very much at all. But here, this was a part I was kind of confused on, because I didn't know. I would figure that Death is out for one thing. But if I remember correctly, in Infinity Gauntlet, it seems like she did whatever she could to just irritate the crap out of Thanos. But regardless, she stops the fight, and she says, well, she didn't say, but you can tell that she sides with Peter Parker, and she understands that the reason that Peter Parker fights is not just for him. It's so that the girl can live. And he even says that. You understand that I don't fight, or I'm fighting for the girl here. To try and save her, because he's upset. He wants the girl to live. He doesn't really care about himself. He wants the girl to live. And Death is like, okay, sure. And she sends him and the girl back both to the land of the living, I guess you would say. Peter Parker wakes up, kind of shakes it off, grabs the girl, and takes her to the hospital. So that is the end of Spider-Man issue 17. No one gets out alive. What is it? Wait a second. What is it called? Yeah, no one gets out alive. No one gets out of here alive. No one gets out of here alive. Okay, there we go. So, Ryan, what did you think, man?
I liked it. It was a little bleak at first when he went to the what he called the graveyard of religious artifacts or whatever.
Oh yeah, where he was.
It was weird. But it falls in line with what Thanos was trying to do.
Yeah,
he's trying to ruin his faith. Not so much religious faith or anything like that, but as a hero, you have to have some sort of faith to know that what you're doing is correct and what you're doing is right and that you're helping. So, you see all this religious, all these religious icons and everything, Star of David, Buddhas and religious, just all this stuff that's going around. And it's pretty much it's dead, So what do you automatically, assume? There's no hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what he was trying to do, was trying to ruin Parker's hope. And then he started in on hey, you cause more harm than you do good, And I was like, oh, I see what you're doing. Which he's a hero. I mean, he's he does a lot of good. That's all he does. So
he tortures himself, maybe unknowingly, but maybe knowingly as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where there are times where we're reading a Spider-Man comic and you see him just continue to go out, even though he's just beaten and battered. He even mentions, I think, I just saw the page where he was looking at that. He says, so this is it. This is what yogis walk hot coals for and priests give up fun for, and what hippies take drugs for, and what Muslims self-flagellate for. And
what kind of fun you talking about there, buddy?
The thing is that he's looking at all that destruction and hopelessness there. When he himself does a lot of those things, he gives up fun. He doesn't take drugs, but I mean, he definitely he was self-flagellating. Which, by the way, is that like striking yourself or something?
You don't want to know what I thought it was at first.
Well, it's not flatulating. I know that.
Yeah, like they fart on themselves. What?
Self-flagellating. Okay, we're going to have to go to the wiki. No pictures, please. Let's go to the wiki.
The action of flogging oneself.
Okay, all right. That's what I was thinking of. Actually, what went into my mind? What is that movie with Tom Hanks? Where that guy beats himself up all the time, and
I read the book.
It's based off a book. They have like 9 movies. The most recent one was like Inferno or something, or
Angels and Demons. 3 movies: Angels and Demons, Inferno, and the Da Vinci Code.
There we go.
Da Vinci Code.
There it is. There it is. Now, see, the thing is that you could compare those people to Peter Parker, because a lot of those things, he keeps himself and tortures himself over and over to be the hero. I mean, all these people, they torture themselves for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They do these things that they don't want to do. They do these things that are maybe sometimes more harm than good to themselves for a greater purpose even. So that's some deep stuff, man. And the more I look into it, the more I can see how, I guess, how deep the story is. When it comes to comparing Peter Parker and the heroics that he does, and the fact that something like this that he would have to face in the afterlife. But anyway, so yeah, and Thanos is a representation of what you were talking about, where he just like, hey, what are you doing? Look at this. So yes, okay. Anything else you'd like to say about the issue there?
I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of those issues that, oh goodness. It inspires a lot of different emotions and a lot of different thoughts about, at first I thought it was like, they're going the religious route, but they really didn't. They didn't explore it at all, which, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Because, there's obviously some, they're going to push some buttons there.
Well, immediately you're probably like, okay, well, the representation that we're going to get, if that is the case of what they're going to try and do,
there is no God.
There is no hope. I wouldn't jump that far. I'd just say, like, what we're going to get is a representation of what the writer's interpretation of that may be.
Look at the way they displayed it. The skull's hanging from the tree and it's tacked up and everything. It was very bleak. There's nothing but death.
Yeah.
Nothing happens except for death. And that's why I was like, oh gosh, this is I don't like this. And but then I realized, oh wait a minute, our villain in this is none other than Thanos, and this is very much what Thanos would do.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, so we're going on a soul searching trip here, which I appreciate, and I enjoyed this issue.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I apparently am having a hard time with English today, and I apologize. So,
well, as you do.
Thanks. Yeah, there you go. You turned it against me.
Boom, 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 boom. Dab on them haters.
Dab on them haters.
Oh, dude, that is the ultimate. Let's try this again. That is the unfortunate side effect of having a 12-year-old daughter.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes. So, okay. My impressions pretty much are the same as yours. One thing I'd love to see is Peter Parker him being put in situations that are not just simple heroics here. This is something that humanizes Peter Parker. That's probably the best way I could describe it. It's a story that does a good job of showing you the internal struggle that happens within Peter Parker's mind day in and day out, his regrets and his fears. So he is a fairly human superhero here, but they found a good way. Anna Sente did a good job of telling a story that made him seem even more human in my eyes. So, and Thanos, you can't beat Thanos, who was probably one of the hottest villains at the time. I mean, just coming off of, or if in the middle of ending Infinity Gauntlet. So good choice there, in my opinion. I could understand why this would be one of their top single issue story arcs out there. So good on you, Dean Compton. Good pick here, man.
Yeah.
I think it was it's definitely a winner. I'm glad I had the opportunity to read it. Like I said, I've never seen I don't think I've even seen the issue. I've got a good run of Spider-Man I ended up just happening upon a while back. And I know for a fact that this is an issue that I did not see. So I would love to get my hands on this. It's a pretty damn good story. All right, man. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and end it there. I look forward. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. I'll open it up to our listeners and see.
It reminds me of the good old days.
The good old days. Back before Mark Radulich ruined your childhood.
Oh,
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Mark is a phenomenal man, and I enjoy him.
He loves to torture you.
I like him immensely, but my God, the man needs to leave me alone.
Oh man, I love it.
Of course you do.
Of course. It's not me on the other end of it. Thank you very much. All right. Well, that was Spider-Man issue 17. Ronnie, let's just go ahead. We'll get into plugs, man. It was a fun read. I'm glad I had the opportunity to read it. So
Absolutely.
What do you got to plug, sir?
I am having. I have a show called Screaming Boy Podcast where we talk about pop culture, nerd culture things. We were actually supposed to do a show last night, but I think Jesse and I, Jesse is one of our co-hosts on the Screaming Boy Podcast. I think we both forgot that we were supposed to do a show last night.
That's all right. That happens.
It does happen. We're in a kind of weird status right now with the Screaming Boy Podcast because I'm having computer issues. We usually record and upload to iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and of course we're right here on the Radio Delicious Broadcast Network. And but we've been doing live shows on Friday nights. So I have a feeling, I keep saying soon, but yeah, that's all I can say is soon we're going to be back recording like normal, and a little bit revamped, things like that. We took down the website, but you can still reach us on any social media possible, which is if you search Facebook, we are Screaming Boy Podcast. If you search Twitter, we are at Screaming Boy PR. If you search Instagram, we are Screaming Boy Podcast. We have a Snapchat, which we do something on. I don't know, but I don't even know what. I think it's Screaming Boy PR on Snapchat. I'm not a big Snapchat fan, but anyway, it is. We have a lot of fun, man. So we've done a lot of cool shows here lately. Voltron versus Power Rangers, some sort of military something or other is actual title of one of the shows. We've done some great stuff, and we're going to continue on because it's just that much fun. Oh, wow. Excuse me. While I die, apparently. But if you go onto iTunes, Stitcher, or TuneIn, you can catch our archived, our recorded shows, which, of course, like I said, we have a blast making. If you go right here on the Radiolytic Broadcasting Network, you can catch our more recent stuff. So we're having a blast. We're going to continue on, and we'll have some stuff coming up. We were going to do a Defenders show, but I think overall, with everything going on, with the Mayweather versus McGregor fight last night, it's probably best that we didn't do that.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and I will just say this because it's a part of pop culture. I was thoroughly impressed with McGregor going 10 rounds when people didn't expect him to last 3. Oh. And now I had no hopes of him winning.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see him win just because of the underdog, part.
Oh,
of
yeah.
I wanted to see him knock out Mayweather because I think Mayweather is a absolute D-bag of a human being who, doesn't pay his taxes and beats his girlfriends or wife or whatever. Shots fired. What now? But he got paid $150 million or whatever it was last night. So now you can pay your taxes, but
please do,
please. But I watched a little bit of it before I fell asleep, and man, McGregor put up a pretty good fight. It was fun. It was a good fight. He got in the early rounds. He got an uppercut, left uppercut in there that I know Mayweather felt deep down in his soul because you could see it on his face. He's like, "Oh, hold up, you're not supposed to do that." And it was probably a good thing that we didn't do a show last night because there was a lot of hype around that. And,
it'd been hard to focus.
So we got some stuff coming up. We'll have some new stuff coming up for you. And with that, I will stop rambling. I'm done.
All right. Ronnie Adams with the Screaming Boy Podcast. Once again, thanks for coming on here. Talking comic books with me.
Man, I love talking comic books. And I love talking comic books with Jesse Starcher because
we've got to have me and you've got to have at least 100 episodes together.
I know.
I mean, that's not even counting Screaming Boy stuff. I'm talking just straight source material stuff. So
we are the podcast kings.
That's right.
What Roddy Litch says. Mark can be on 16 shows at a time, but you usually fall asleep in the middle of them.
Oh man, as Shots you do.
Fired.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Stiznarkey on Twitter. We do have a Twitter for the show. It's at SourceMattCast. I had to figure out what is it called again? The show right here for the show.
The show right here.
You can check us out on at SourceMattCast on Twitter. As far as what's upcoming, we have the daunting task of talking 12 issues of 1998's Inhuman miniseries done by Paul Jenkins and drawn by Jay Lee. So I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Have you ever pronounced it anything different?
Jay Lee?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, good.
No, yeah, that's all I've ever.
All right. So Jay Lee does some great art. Anyway, that's coming up here on Monday. So that we're going to record that, but that will be released on the, what is that? 4th of September. So keep an ear open for that to drop. And I think September is going to be the month where we do the trivia. It's happening. We've got to figure out a way of doing trivia and having a trivia championship in that month. So I'm going to be putting my collective consciousness into trying to figure out how we're going to get that all mapped up. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the area, if you're in Marietta, please give some thought about checking out 2 great, spectacular events that are going to happen on what I have decided to call the Lit Weekend, and that is September 16th, Remix Pro Throwdown for the Pound. Wizard of Paws, I believe, is the subtitle for that. If you like professional wrestling, if you like any of the great stories that are told in the Squared Circle, check out Remix Pro's Throwdown for the Pound, Wizard of Paws. That's happening Saturday the 16th. I called it a lit weekend, ladies and gentlemen, because on Sunday, September 17th, that's right, we are going to be at the local comic book show, the local comic book con, if you will. River City Comic Con is going to be happening at the Dyson Botto Center in Marietta, Ohio. And if you are interested in checking out some great comic books, there's going to be some panels that are going to be on tap. From what I understand, I am going to be tag teaming with the boys over at Kapow. This just came in. It came in a couple nights ago, as a matter of fact. I'm going to be tag teaming with the boys from Kapow for one panel for sure. And that is going to be, get this, a trivia-related panel somehow.
What the heck?
Somehow, some way.
I am trivia king.
It's going to be interesting. I don't think we are going to do this panel, and we're going to be asking the audience members to come up, and I think we're going to do something similar to what they did the Rebirth launch, where they did 3 questions. So we could have a line of like 50 people. They sit down, and we're going to record, and we're going to ask them questions as we go through. If you get 1 right, you get this. If you get 2 right, you get that. And obviously, if you get 3 right, you get something even better than the first 2 prizes. So, Ronnie Adams, if you were there, which I know there's questions. We'll talk about that offline. But if you do happen to be there, bring your trivia knowledge, my friend, because I have a feeling we can sit there and we can run through some questions. You may even, I don't know, you may even walk away with something fantabulous. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. If you're in the area, the Lit Weekend begins the 16th of September, rolls right into the 17th. That's right, Sunday, River City Comic Con. Be there or be square. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jesse Starcher. That's Ronnie Adams. I'm ready to get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for joining. Have a good one.